Okay. It will be a short talk full of many information, so I will try to tell everything, but I must be synthetic in some way. I start from statistics. Why statistics? Because our main duty, together with an American group, international group, but also Erling and also Philippe Ellery here present here, are preparing a project for an automated monitoring station to be placed somewhere in the world in order to try to catch scientific data with the same philosophy with which we take electromagnetic data from the stars, from the galaxy or so, because this work using our sensors is practically applied astrophysics. So we try to do that, but before making measurements, we have to find where to place these instruments. In fact, I did an experiment that is now published, I will show you afterwards, on the NARCAP webpage. First, I started to see how these phenomena are spread in the world, everywhere in the world. Of course, this is not, surely it's not a real distribution, but there is a selection effect caused by the communication means that are not very diffused in some areas of the world. But what is most important from the strategic and the tactical point of view is that I went to see from the New Fork database plus other database what happened in some states such as Connecticut, New York and Ontario province from 1950 to 2010. Many ufologists tell, oh, there is a terrible increase of the sightings, the Earth has been invaded, but the reality is another one. The reality is that this increase, I cut it from 1993 to 2007, is simply goes with the same trend with the diffusion of cell phones and also of the internet. So this is due to the increase of technological means that permit people to transmit information. This is the space, the time distribution. And this one is the space distribution. I was quite patient to take thousands of data and put all of them on a map of the New York state plus the Connecticut state. And of course, as you see, there is a UFO invasion somewhere all over there. But if you compare with the map of the population, then this is explained by that many people could see it. And I refer to the Dr. Rospar's statistics, who speaks a lot about the relation between the number of sightings and the number of inhabitants. What is important here is the ratio between the number of witnesses and the number of inhabitants. If we do that, we make a calibration on statistics, and we are able to precisely isolate the real position in lat long where the phenomenon is truly happening, namely where the phenomenon, small hamlets with a few inhabitants who see many phenomena. For instance, this was the case of the Hudson Valley, very famous. I wanted to do these experiments because we want to use this kind of statistics in order to choose precisely where our automatic monitoring station will be placed. So after seeing this, I will tell you what we did. I did my contribution together with Erling and Bjorn in the past years. Before doing that, I want to show the technical publications. You can find what I told about the statistical work on the NARCAP web page. And now, monitoring UAP in Italy. In Italy, I've been carrying out about 7 missions to areas where the light phenomenon is quite recurrently, but I didn't want to make a lot of publicity because we didn't want people disturbing us on the field, and we didn't want strange ufologists who like to exploit scientists for their own claims. So this remained in that quite disturbed. And for instance, this one is in central Italy, 300 kilometers south from where I am. There were some spheres of light, and the philosophy, the philosophy of the observation was that all the time that we were trying to monitor the phenomenon, we are taking VLF, ELF data all the time, because the philosophy is that we can extract some physics from the phenomenon only if we can correlate electromagnetic data, optical data, spectroscopic data. We monitored several places. This is in the northern Apennine, very close where I live, where we were able to get very strange anomalous VLF signals. Consider that we have a database of all the known ionospheric man-made instrumental signals that we can compare to something anomalous. And this is lastly 2002-10, something that is very similar to the Sdalen phenomenon, and that is seen in an area that is closer to the first one on the northern Apennine. Of course, we took VLF data, a lot of data. We tried a spectrum, but the light was too much weak in order to extract scientific information. The most important datum is this. A group that is in communication with me, they are astroamateurs, were able to take a spectrum of a phenomenon in northern Italy, not very close where I am, and the good thing is that they are sending to me reports of their operations, and this time it was possible to obtain a spectrum. The light was sufficiently strong, and it was possible to identify oxygen lines. This is extremely important for two reasons. The first reason is that this demonstrates that this phenomenon is a real anomaly. It's something that is able to excite and ionize the atmosphere. And the second reason is that measuring the lines, we can calculate the number of atoms that make the spectral line, and we can also deduce the temperature of the source that created this thing. So we will go on, and we are optimizing the spectroscopic part. I was able to obtain very good photo in a place where I am, but unfortunately the VLF and the spectral images were not present. I've been publishing this paper, omnicomprehensive paper, of all what I told you before, and you will have on the web of GEIPAN expanded version of it. It's a technical publication. Of course, there has been much work together with Professor Strang and Björn Hauge in Sdalen. Okay, in Sdalen. Some statistics. Just to see if there is a correlation with the solar activity. Many photos. This is one of the photos that I took myself. And most of all, much attempts to do physics of the phenomenon, in particular, the possibility to measure the radiant power that was 20 kilowatt, studying the shape changes, morphology, light curve, how the phenomenon is pulsating and varying, light spectra, anomalies in the VLF range, and above all, to prepare an empirical model that shows how the light is varying. The light is varying not because the temperature is changing, and not even because it is inflating, but just because the surface emitting area suddenly increases in a pulsating, semi-pulsating mode due to the formation of many globules that suddenly form all around the common barycenter. This has been seen not only in Sdalen but also in Australia. I've seen a video in Australia and also in the United States. So we have done several attempts to make physics that has been published on this technical paper of mine on the Journal of Scientific Exploration. I did other missions abroad. in the last 5 years to Ontario in Canada. There was an ufologist, a serious ufologist, who has been documenting a phenomenon that is going inside the surface of the lake. And so I tried to tell her how to take spectra. Spectra didn't furnish results. I did the statistics on the data. The only thing that I found very interesting is that there is a cyclical behavior along the years. During the mission, the only very interesting thing that we could measure was a very strange VLF signals that suddenly appeared just 5 minutes before a strange double light appeared. But unfortunately, we had already packed our instruments. It was 2 o'clock. It seems the phenomenon is making fun of us all the time. This was in Arizona, together with Erling and geophysicist Marsh Adams. And these are data from Australia, Avalon Beach. A person, a very good person, very determined, has sent me a lot of data, and I taught him how to take spectra. He took spectra very well, and it was possible to say that what comes out from the spectra is perfectly human, fluorescent lights. So I'm wondering who is making a fool of people somewhere. I suspected that this can be a form of psychological warfare. And I know that there are light artifacts that have been experimented by the military. Okay? This is the reason why spectroscopy is an extremely important issue. I've been doing a lot of testing using several kinds of dispersion systems. Here you see a rainbow optics spectrograph that if you attach it in front of the lens and you use a 300 millimeter of focal length, you can obtain a sufficient resolution that is able to resolve spectral lines. If you compare it with something that a 50 millimeter focal length, you can see that you can resolve lines very well. And so all the physics that comes out from it is a good physics. Because what we are going to do here is just the physics of the phenomenon. Just like we do in astrophysics. I am an astrophysicist, and I know very well, as well as having a very long experience in the technical of spectroscopy. This is just an evolution of the last years on the way to do spectroscopy. This is the spectrum that I've shown, but lastly, I have the pleasure to know Dr. Ron Masters, who is a spectroscopy from USA, and from whom I bought the prototype of his instrument, which allows two possibilities. One, low dispersion, but with a resolution that is higher than the spectrum that we obtain with the grating. You can see the spectral lines are very well resolved, and also a high resolution disperser that allows to obtain shell spectra, where the spectral orders are just spread all over several orders. You can see Fraunhofer lines, and these are all my tests. And also, when you use street lights, you can see very well resolved lines. This is extremely important from the physics point of view, because, for instance, if the phenomenon is artificial, and we see double splitted lines, this might be the Zeeman effect. The Zeeman effect tells that one spectral line can be splitted at a level that is at the highest when the magnetic field intensity is the highest. So we can measure the magnetic field and its variation in time. We can do a lot of physics. I'm just about to the end. We are now doing a project of the International Automatic Station that I told you before. We first wanted all-sky camera. The philosophy is to take optical image and spectral data simultaneously with electromagnetic data. This is a paper that will be published very soon, a long paper, together with Mark Rodegear, Ron Masters, and Philip here. Hope it's published soon. And now, this is the very last thing, I am in a very strict contact with Dr. Masters, who is optimizing the sensitivity of the sensor that is connected to the spectrographic grating, because we want to get data from very weak sources and with acceptable resolution. In order to do that, we are thinking to use a 3i³ CCD camera to be pointed all over the sky and putting a spectral grating in every one of each. We expect to have a lot of physics data about whatever is passing over our head. Thank you for your attention.